And then there was Friday's terrible jobs report. Joining us now, former Treasury official and Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Rattner. Steve, first explain just how much this vaccine bad news will impact the economy moving forward.
Well, Mika, as I'll show you in a second, they're completely interconnected. We do have an economic crisis, but it is really a public health crisis that is driving the economic crisis. And so the slower the vaccine rollout occurs, the worse the economic crisis is going to be and the longer it's going to persist.
So I know you've got charts to go through. We had a jobs report. A couple of them have just been painful and brutal. And as we look ahead, as the health crisis persists, where are these numbers headed?
Yeah, as I said, they're completely interconnected, and I'm going to show you right now how that works. Well, first of all, as you said, it was a terrible jobs number last Friday. We were expecting a gain of about 75,000 jobs. We actually lost 140,000 jobs. And even worse, you can see the trajectory of what's been happening. We had the huge downturn in the spring, 20 million jobs lost in a single month. We then began to recover. Things were looking promising. But what you can see is that starting after June, every month the number of jobs added was lower than the number before, and now we have an actual negative number. And what that means is that we've lost 9.8 million jobs still in this economy. 22 had been lost at the beginning, and so only 56% have been recovered. And I would throw out this fact that Trump is now going to leave office having actually lost jobs during his 4-year term, the first president since Herbert Hoover to have lost jobs in a 4-year term. Now, if we look at the breakdown of where the jobs were lost, you can see what an uneven impact this economic disaster has had on people. Right at the top, last month, we lost 372,000 jobs in food services, bars, restaurants, things like that. That is more than 2.5 times the 140,000 jobs that we lost across the whole economy, which meant that more than 100%, way more than 100% of the job losses were in this sector for obvious reasons. And then equally obviously, we lost almost 100,000 jobs in amusement, gambling, sporting. This includes gyms. We lost 63,000 jobs in private education, schools, and universities having to cut back because of their financial issues. Local government is starting to cut back 32,000 jobs. But then on the plus side, you see some categories added. People are, the housing is doing well. People are adding to their houses and so forth during the pandemic. Hard to get a plumber and electrician these days. Couriers and messengers. And then stores like Target, Walmart, and things like that, people have been shopping for what they need. And finally, because of all this turnover in employment, a busy time for employment staffing for recruiters, temporary workers, and things like that. And then if you turn to the last chart, you can see how this all ties together. So what's been happening is that because of the virus, people have become less mobile, a combination of state and local restrictions and their own good sense. So this chart shows the huge downturn in mobility, down almost 25% in terms of the amount of time people spend away from their houses. Then it climbed back during the spring, and it got to within about 7% of where we were before the pandemic started. And you can see now it is again almost falling off a cliff, and it's down 16%. And so when people can't move or don't feel comfortable moving or are told not to move, they can't spend. And that does not bode well at all for January's job numbers and for the path of the economy.
Yeah, and you look at these numbers, you look at this absolute spike. I think of my friends who told me that COVID was going to magically disappear on November 3rd after the election, that this was also a conspiracy. It's that sort of backward thinking, that sort of medieval thinking that actually has wrecked the economy once again and continues to kill people. And Steve, you brought up a point that we've been saying since March, which is this is a healthcare crisis first, then it's an economic crisis, and then it's a political crisis. And said to Donald Trump repeatedly in March, if you take care of the healthcare crisis, the economic crisis, and the political crisis will take care of itself. He just couldn't do it. So now we look to 2021. Most of the business owners that I talk to, a lot of business people I talk to believe that this economy may be back to normal. At least they were hoping this before they realized how badly botched the vaccine rollout was, by the end of the second quarter, by June, early July. What are your thoughts about when we can really expect the economy to start ramping up again?
Joe, as you said, it's a public health crisis that has led to an economic crisis. And so, in a sense, I could say, if you tell me when the public health crisis will end, I'll tell you when the economic crisis will end. But June is certainly not in the picture.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.